to head to Washington, D.C. for our top story of the day this morning. We've got John Gallagher with us, our Washington correspondent, talking about Senate confirmation hearings now for the new FMCSA administrator, Robin Hutcheson. And John, thank you for joining us today. Let's get into this a little bit. She's trying to remove that interim tag from her name. And this comes, of course, with the confirmation hearings. What's going on in Washington right now, and where are these sitting at?
Yeah, so her nomination is considered, not controversial, at least as far as Congress is concerned. But OIDA might have a different take on that, and we can get into that a bit more. But basically, what she did talk about was, one of the things that I picked out for my article was that she talked about the hair testing for drugs. Well, she was asked about hair testing, and her agent basically said, and this is something, the reason I kind of highlighted in the story was something that has been sort of controversial, a pretty controversial issue. And she basically said that, her agency stands ready to allow it as an alternative to urinalysis, to be used in the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse once HHS gets done approving it. They basically, this is all contingent on Health and Human Services moving forward on a revised set of guidelines that based on comments that came out when the initial set of guidelines was put out in September 2020. And they're working on basically a follow-up set based on those comments and studies that were highlighted in those comments. She also talked about some upcoming petitions. Also, one of them was scheduled to come out in May, and actually it's not a petition, it's a request for information on, they're doing revamping their, they want to know definitions of what it is to be a broker, and how that relates to being a truck dispatcher. And actually just this morning they released that proposal that they're going to be seeking comments on. She also talked about safety scores, a proposed rulemaking that's going to be coming up looking on revamping how carriers safety scores are calculated. Again, this is something that the FMCSA has been working on for a while. They've got a lot of pushback from other parts of the administration, like there's GAO reports saying these need to be changed. And she also talked about. She was asked about livestock ELDs and how those affect the livestock sector, because there are some rural senators in the Commerce Committee where her nomination hearing was asking about more. There is a little bit of flexibility for livestock haulers already in the hours of service rules, but they want a little bit more flexibility. And she also talked about a new women in trucking board that's going to be stood up at the FMCSA at the end of the summer. But as I said before, OIDA would have a different take. They were disappointed in what she didn't talk about, and both what wasn't brought up and what she did talk about. And the biggest thing being no talk about or her take that there's not a driver shortage. Basically, she spent a lot of time talking about programs meant to get more drivers into the profession, but like the 18 to 20-year-old apprenticeship program at FMCSA and the Department of Labor, but there was no talk about driver retention and fixing that by leaving. There was no talk about why they're not getting compensated, basically. But the thing is, what's interesting is the administration has talked about those things. The administration has talked about the one thing that wasn't brought up, like truck parking, which OIDA was also disappointed about. That whole issue wasn't in her prepared comments, and it didn't get kind of brought up by the senators. But what's interesting, and OIDA also pointed this out, she has been talking about truck parking as a priority at FMCSA over the last year that she has been acting and deputy administrator, but it wasn't in her prepared comments and it didn't get brought up. Now, that could be because there doesn't happen to be a strong advocate for that specifically on the Senate Commerce Committee. I mean, it's been brought up in many hearings before, and FMCSA and everyone pretty much is sort of on board with truck. There needs to be more truck parking. And actually, there was one other thing that she brought up that OOIDA probably. They didn't mention this. OOIDA didn't mention this in their public statement last night, but she was asked about automation, and could automation be a problem for solving a truck driver shortage that OOIDA doesn't believe in to begin with. And her answer to that was, I believe automation can both improve safety and support innovation for trucking. So, automation is a sort of a nuanced issue. It depends on if you're talking about totally driverless trucks, or are you self-driving trucks, or you're talking about driver assist. So, depending on what that definition is, you have different takes on it. But I'm sure OOIDA doesn't want to see driverless trucks being pushed as something, as a way to ease a driver shortage they don't believe exists to begin with.
Yeah. So, John, let me ask you this. I mean, all those topics are really important things, right? I mean, I love the Women in Trucking board that they're going to put together, because we need to promote that. I love, driver parking, talking about automation, all these things, and accurate scoring of carriers for their safety scores, right? All very, very important stuff. It is the Federal Motor Safety Administration, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Did you speak about any type of substance that would actually improve safety coming off of 2021, which was a 16-year high in deaths? Did she say anything that would improve safety and those deaths over parking?
Yeah, she did. That was, and that sort of was the highlight. She only had like a 2-page prepared remarks. Yeah, and that was sort of that was sort of the highlight of it. I'm sorry, I glossed over that just because I was kind of going to the more controversial stuff. But yeah. She basically said, that then, she mentioned there were 800. We did a story. We did a story a couple of weeks ago after NHTSA came out with the latest forecast that the actual truck deaths were going to go up again after coming down the last couple of years. And so she said that as a priority. They have a couple of months ago, DOT came out, and the agencies, FMCSA and NHTSA and FWA, came out with this road safety initiative. I forgot the exact word of it, but it's this basically this big program that they're looking to go to zero highway deaths, and it's through all different things like fixing who's in the cab, the roadway, how the truckers' safety rules, all the 4 or 5 different agencies are involved in this. So that was like a big highlight of her speech. Yeah. So, and they talked, and that's what all the senators sort of that was what they wanted to say. That was a big thing that they try to get out before they get into these other controversial issues. So,
yeah, because it seems to me, John, does it not seem to you that automation and the way to like bridge that or extend that olive branch out to OOIDA and those that are a little bit frightened by that and or concerned about it, not frightened. That's the wrong word to work. Is that this brings about a much improved safety and efficiency for drivers as it becomes developed, does it not?
Yeah, and that and that's why she mentioned that, and again, that's why I mentioned that it's sort of nuanced, because I don't think OOIDA has ever said that they're against automation.
Yeah, right. No, they're not, and I spoke incorrectly. You're right. That's not right. But it brings that argument together where they both can work towards something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Michael. That's true. So, and that's why. And when she was asked about automation, she was asked. The senator said, I think it was it was a senator from Indiana who was asking I only got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to ask you these really quick questions. And and it was all concerning like automation, or do you think there's a driver shortage? And she said yes. And can automation fix it? Can automation fix it? And she sort of paused there, like, all right, I got to toe the administration line, and I get it. I mean, they're all bureaucrats, and they're really nuanced in how they're very careful on how they answer these questions.
And so, John, what is the likelihood of her getting confirmed? And then now what are the next steps for this confirmation to progress?
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, I don't think there's nothing really controversial came up in her nomination hearing. Now, the nomination hearing is sort of the senator's ability, time to get out all these questions they have. Now, the next step is her actual confirmation hearing in the Senate. I mean, sorry, they'll hold another hearing to vote on her. I guess it's a vote on her confirmation that the Commerce Committee will have. Now, that's where other senators may, come in the room and say, well, I disagree with this, and it might look a little bit controversial, and that's where it might come down to more of a party line vote before it gets pushed out of the Senate Commerce Committee, and then, but it likely will, since the Democrats have control. So even if it comes down to a close vote, it'll go through, and then the Senate will vote on that on her actual confirmation.
Yeah, excellent stuff, John. Always a great conversation with you. Thanks for the details and the insights. Really appreciate it. We'll be looking for a lot more insights from you as this moves forward. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.